What happened with Job? Different people have different takeaways from the book of Job. Here's what changed everything for me.
Sometimes life doesn't just get hard, it gets confusing. Not the kind of confusion you can fix with a plan or a conversation. The kind that makes you sit quietly and wonder, what did I do wrong? Because when things fall apart, that's usually where our minds go. We assume cause and effect, mistake, consequence, sin, punishment. But what if that's not the full picture? What if some of the hardest moments in your life have nothing to do with something you did wrong? That's exactly where the story of Job begins. Not with failure, not with rebellion, but with a man Scripture describes as blameless and upright, one who feared God and shunned evil. In other words, if anyone deserved peace, it was him. And yet, everything in his life begins to collapse. His wealth gone, his children gone, his health broken. And here's the part that changes everything. Job never finds out why. Now, this is where the story takes a turn most people miss. Because behind the scenes, completely outside of Job's awareness, there's a conversation happening. A moment in the heavenly court. The adversary challenges Job's faith, claiming it only exists because his life is blessed. Take the blessings away, he argues, and Job will fall apart. And God allows a test. Not chaos, not randomness. A test with boundaries. Clear limits are set. Lines the enemy cannot cross. But Job doesn't hear any of this. He doesn't get the explanation. He doesn't get the context. From his perspective, life just breaks. And that's what makes this story so real. Because if we're honest, that's how life feels sometimes. Things don't always come with reasons. Pain doesn't always come with answers. And faith doesn't always come with clarity. So what do you do when you don't understand what God is doing? That's the question Job forces us to face. And here's where the story moves into something deeper. Job doesn't pretend everything is fine. He grieves, he questions, he wrestles, but he doesn't let go of God. Even when his friends insist he must have done something wrong, even when the silence from heaven stretches on, even when nothing makes sense, Job holds on. At one point he says, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." That's not comfortable faith. That's not easy faith. That's real faith. Faith that isn't built on understanding, but on trust. Now let's step back for a moment and look at what this means for us. Because Job's story doesn't promise that every hardship has a clear explanation. It doesn't say every trial is preparing you for something bigger. It doesn't neatly tie suffering into a bow. Instead, it tells the truth most people don't want to say out loud. Sometimes you won't know why. Not now. Maybe not ever. But here's what you can know. God is still sovereign. The same God who set limits in Job's story is the same God who sets limits in yours. Nothing touches your life without passing through his hands first. That doesn't make the pain disappear, but it gives it a boundary. It gives it context, even when you can't see it. And maybe that's the quiet strength this story offers. You don't need all the answers to hold on to God. You don't need a full explanation to keep your faith. You just need to know who he is. Faith isn't trusting God because you understand everything he's doing. Faith is trusting God because of who he's proven himself to be. So if your life feels heavy right now, if things don't make sense, if you're asking questions that don't have answers, it doesn't mean God has left you. It doesn't mean you're being punished. And it doesn't mean you've been forgotten. It means you're human, living in a world where you can't see everything. But God can. And the same God who never left Job hasn't left you. You may not know the reason behind your battle. You may never know. But you can know this. God is still with you, and nothing in your life is outside his wisdom or his care.
So, what's your takeaway from Job's story? Have you ever faced a trial you couldn't understand, yet still held on to God? Share your thoughts below.
Please support the channel by clicking the logo on the left to go to our channel to subscribe, or the screen on the right for your next video. Thanks again.
Your next video is now ready.